are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Mecca Banter podcast. I am this week's host, Henry Wind. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. And before we dive into anything, we got to call out. If you've been following our Pro Clubs account on the Mecca Banter FIFA 23 Pro Clubs, which I can't imagine you are because no one has access to following us, we've made it up to Division 1 in Pro Clubs, which is a pretty elite,
kind of a big deal.
It's a huge
kind of a
deal.
big deal. We're gonna go for it all tonight and into tomorrow. And if we win, we're getting bottles.
You will hear about it as well.
We're celebrating. You know,
There's going to be content out of that event.
Yeah.
If we win Division 1 on Pro Clubs.
Hoover has the opportunity to win a trophy in his lifetime, which is exciting. It's super fun. But you know, it's Henry Wind here. It's a great week to be a Manchester United fan. I'm excited to get into this week's episode. We're previewing the upcoming week. Getting back into the Prem, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on around the Prem, but today's episode is really going to be focused on St. Louis City as it is international break right now. So let's check in with the fellas. Connor Sindobri, how you doing?
Well, I'm just happy that this is finally an episode we can talk Prem again. The international break absolutely sucks. So happy to finally talk Manchester United. It feels like it's been a little absent from my life here recently, and I'm happy to get back into it. Also, happy to talk a little national team, and happy to talk an undefeated St. Louis City. So happy to be here, boys. Good to see you all.
Happy to have ya, Nick Hayflinger. What's up, brother?
Absolutely. I think it's free to say it's a great week to be a St. Louis City fan. I feel like I can say that, and it feels really good to say. That's about it on that for me. But you know where to find me. It's at Hayfy4 on Twitter. It has been silent recently, but I will say I have been a little bit more active in the St. Louis City world because we're doing pretty well. So that's when I like to talk shit, of course, obviously. Don't we all?
He's a fair weather fan. You know, I love to hear it. Every friend group
welcome to
needs
the
one.
fan club.
Yeah, and happy belated birthday to you, Nicholas.
Hey,
another year
cheers.
older, another year wiser. Last but certainly not least, we have the point god himself registering a couple points on the score sheet last night, Andy Hoover. Welcome to the chat.
Happy to be here. Yeah, you got to keep track of your Sunday League stats because no one else does it for you. So two nutmegs that led to high quality chances, and one Emerson Royale-esque run from the wing. But yeah, man, happy to be here.
XG off the charge.
And crazy. The amount of one-on-ones I had, I probably should have had a couple more goals, but not as happy to talk about the club as Dobes here today, but it is what it is. A good day to be a St. Louis City fan.
Yeah, we're going to get to you here in a little bit because, you have quite a few things stirring around your club. But as Dobes alluded to, it is international break. And for those of you that don't know, there's a couple of times throughout the year that all clubs in Europe and most surrounding countries from there stop playing in their leagues because the idea is that the majority of their guys are representing their countries. There wouldn't be enough players on the roster to staff a full team. Therefore, the league stops for a weekend. The international teams play sometimes just a friendly, so a non-competitive or a non-outcome related game, and then sometimes it's Euro qualifiers or CONCACAF Nations League qualifiers. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit boring. It hasn't been great, but we do get to see the United States in action, which they had a 7-1 stomping a couple of days ago, which was great to see. And then they're actually playing tonight, and who knows, maybe we'll get a halftime reaction out of this crew, but it's been pretty boring. So looking ahead to the upcoming weekend, we're going to be getting back into the Prem, beginning with Manchester City and Liverpool kicking off at 6:30 a.m. Butch isn't here to defend himself, so, we'll call it what it is. But this is a City team that is kind of finding their stride. You never know how teams are going to bounce back after the international break, but they are finding their stride. Calvin Phillips played a game of football in the last, week. That's more than he's played all season. So he's got some minutes under the belt. Fellas, anything that you're seeing out of this game other than a City win?
No, I completely see a City win here. I almost think it's a reality check for Liverpool. I kind of think they're on a high right now. They're going to face a City side that's obviously scoring a lot of goals. And I don't think the Liverpool attack is going to be able to match the City attack. I don't see it. Once again, it's the Premier League game, the Premier League. So like I could be completely wrong, and we could see a very tight, close knit game. Like by all means, I could see that as well. But I just see the amount of goals that City has scored in their last couple of games, and I find it very hard of Liverpool stopping that clip.
Yep. I'm gonna die on the hill of City's gonna win the league. I think this is that point in the season where we see the experience take over. What is there? 8 fixtures left. This Liverpool team has been shaky coming off back-to-back losses to Real and into like bottom of the table Bournemouth. We see a City side who scored 6 goals against Burnley, beat Leipzig 7-0 in the Premier League. Also an Erling Haaland who pulled, one of the classic moves is pulls out with injury from Norway and stays back to train to get fully healthy. So he's had plenty of time off. And I think this is where we see like the City experience just come through. Like they've been here and they've done this. They've been through this run before. They got a gauntlet full of games that are coming through. But at the same time, you Pep Guardiola, and we've seen this team do this time and time again. And we've seen just how shaky this Liverpool squad is. I think City absolutely cruise here.
It's crunch time for sure. Like that's just where they're at with everything. And I think Liverpool rolls over. Like the City, they have to win games. Every game for them now is a must win, and they have to hope for some points dropped. Like we're crunch time. No one has anything left to lose. There's no way they don't win this game, frankly. But Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that we're all expecting City to roll, and sometimes when we expect City to roll, they just don't. So we'll call that for what it is this season. But I also think that City has a lot of guys resting right now. Phil Foden not resting; he had to get his appendix removed, kind of like a freak thing, which is crazy. I also think that Phil Foden's just kind of had a rough year. I think Nick, you called it out on the pod a couple of weeks ago that you're waiting to see him reach his full potential. But he's had a couple of weird things happen this season. But fact of the matter is,
so quality.
There's still a lot of guys from City who are resting right now, not featuring, whether it's for choice or for whatever reason, but they're not playing a lot of minutes on the international break, which is huge. And a lot of guys from Liverpool that are representing their clubs are playing a lot of minutes. So I think City's going to cruise here. I can't imagine it goes any other way. So sorry, Butch. We'll probably be here giving a little laugh.
I was going to say, Butch loves that take out of all of us.
I just genuinely, I would say this if he was here too. I just don't know how you would defend it. I don't know how you would go into potentially, or I'll say it, the best team in the Prem. I don't know how you'd go into that game feeling confident that you're going to come out with any sort of result. So I think he'd be, right here with us. Moving on to the next game of the weekend, we have Arsenal versus Leeds. Make or break time for Arsenal, eh?
Make or break time for both these teams.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, that's one thing Dobes mentioned. We got to watch the last Chelsea game together, and he mentioned that a lot of these teams that Arsenal are playing here at the end, they're fighting for a lot bigger things. A lot of these players are fighting for jobs. A lot of them are in the relegation battle. So these are not by any means easy games for Arsenal. I will say though, the fact that they're out of all the other competitions, obviously is a huge benefit to them. So we're going to see their number one lineup week in and week out. So I don't see, I obviously want Leeds to win, but I think we're going to see a side of Arsenal that they want to win the Premier League, and I don't know if Leeds is able to hang with them.
I think we're going to see goals in this game, which is always exciting to watch. Arsenal, Lucas talks about this every single chance that he can, about how Arsenal comes out with that 20-minute burst at the beginning of games where they just absolutely blitz the other team. Leeds does that
Blitz.
too. Like Leeds plays the high. I mean, against us, especially in that first game where they got a result against us.
Both games they were right out of the gate.
Yeah, super high line. And their guys are catching speed as well. Aronson had a goal. Nanto from Italy had a great showing against England, so he's playing really well. So you never know, but I do think Arsenal's going to come away with this one, but we'll see.
It's crunch time for Leeds too, for sure. I just checked the end of their schedule, and this isn't one of the games that they have left that they're like, we need 3 points here. I don't think that changes their approach to it by any means. But you know what you're going to get with Arsenal too. It's you know what you're going to get with both teams, I think. So to a certain degree, it's who can play their role better. And, we've seen that's been Gunners all year. But Leeds catches people by surprise sometimes. So, not an easy one for Arsenal by any means. Every game's tough. But I'm not even going to say it. Sure, they're going to be fine.
I guess I've been like thinking about the title race being close, like in Germany. We've talked about that for a little bit, but looking at the Prem table, 12th through 20th is 4 points.
Insane.
Ridiculous.
That's nuts. Yeah. So your shout with Leeds, this is a make or break game for them. Like that is true. I mean, I think, the end of the season is going to be crazy for those bottom half teams. I mean, Aston Villa and up, you're safe from the drop for sure. But like below that's nuts. That's crazy. Barely. But they're there.
Barely.
Speaking of teams that are close to bottom half of the table, Chelsea plays Villa this upcoming weekend. And when we left the Prem, things were looking up for Chelsea. There was a couple Potter in shouts. So Nick, how are you feeling going into this weekend playing against Villa? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a must win for us. I think with the Champions League kind of a little ways out, we really need to start getting results in the Premier League. And we're playing against a side that is level with us on points in 11th place. So that obviously is not good as a Chelsea fan. So I'm seeing a must win here. Really interested. I know I keep saying it on every podcast of late. I'm really interested to see the lineup. Conte has been apparently fully healthy for the last game or two, and we haven't seen him. So I'm really interested to see him back. But yeah, I'm really interested to see the lineup because I truly think this is a must win. So I want to see what Potter thinks about it as well.
Your boy Mudryk had quite the showing against England. What was it yesterday that he played? Dobes, do you still have the stats on that by a chance?
Oh no, I don't have them. I can look it up because I know I like the tweet though. It was like 63 minutes.
Great. Wasn't great.
0 touches in the opponent's box, 0 forward passes, like 1 for 3 on dribbles. The Chelsea thing is like you saying this is a must win as if like every single game that you guys have for the rest of the year isn't a must win. Like, isn't a must win.
No,
I also think it's like, what's up with Reece James, man? Like, we need this guy to somehow stay healthy.
Because, I think I said it when we signed Santos, that right back. I like Reece James right now is not our starting right back.
Dude, it's crazy.
Azpilicueta is our starting right back because the how consistent Reece James is injured. And once again, like I don't know what to do. Like do we get rid of him?
I get why these guys want to play for their country in these big games, but he seems like one of those that he just came back, hasn't even like really played a full 90 yet, then goes and plays for England when he's not even like fully back with Chelsea yet. He's one of those that seems like he should have done the Rashford or done the Haaland and just said, I'm injured and stayed back at Chelsea. Cause I think he makes you guys 100% just a completely different team. And you saw that for the last 3 games when he was back healthy. So I think he's going to be a massive loss. But that being said, I do think you guys still can win here. Villa have been extremely shaky. Unai Emery, you never really know what you're going to get from them. Sometimes they look good and they play beautiful football, and other times they get played through like Swiss cheese. So I'm actually going to go with like a 1-1 draw and just say that Chelsea's going to be Chelsea. And
it is kind of crazy. If you lose this game, you're bottom half of the table.
I know. I I know I keep saying this because I'm on the Potter out train, but like if we lose this game, what else do we need for evidence of we're not figuring it out in the Premier
Well,
League?
He's got
I
you late in the Champions League, though.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Like, I mean, you yourself have said it a couple of times with like how all your eggs are in the Champions League basket. And I think that is where the rubber meets the road on this. Like we've seen.
Yeah, I know,
that
but
he's
in
not getting
preparation for the Champions League, we need to find form. We need to start seeing results in games leading up to that. So
I think in preparation for the Champions League, he's still trying to figure out who to play. You have like 35 guys to pick from. So I think you're right, but I do, and all your eggs are in that Champions League basket for sure. But like, where does he get the time and space to figure out what to do? Like, he's got it right for these Champions League games, and like that's what you're riding on. But it's weird. It's just a weird place to be because there's not hope for Europe. You obviously want to win the games. There's way more pressure on Chelsea to win this game than Aston Villa. So I think you could pull out a result for sure. But he's just not had the availability to figure out who to play. And every time with these rotating injuries, what's left? I'm not defending the guy either, but if you get that far in the Champions League, you can't sack a man.
Yeah, I think in the Prem, he's strictly playing for or like
shout out Bayern Munich. Yeah.
Potter's coaching for like that respect or mutual respect from the fans almost, to where like the fans want to see a team that's winning games, that's consistently playing well. And obviously, like if they still go far in the Champions League, it's like that doesn't necessarily it's nice, but like at the same time, you want to see a team that's consistent, not just for 2 different games. At least that's how I would look at it as a fan.
Yeah, we are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. By no means should we be losing to 12th place Aston Villa.
That's a really good way of phrasing it. Yeah.
You're not going to cruise into that game having playing average in the Prem and all of a sudden show up against the best teams in the world and win games. Like,
there's no reason. We should walk away with 3 points.
Yeah. That also side note, your guys' young kid, what is it? Andrew Santos got his first senior call up for Brazil and got some minutes the other day.
Yeah, which is nice. What's his name? Chuka.
Yep.
He scored a goal.
Yep.
As well.
Sure did. He played great as well. So playing with Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa, who is the truth, and I love him. Dobes, we have Newcastle on Sunday, which is a replay of the Carabao Cup final. And I'll get it right off the bat. I have 2 thoughts about this. Number one, this international break could not have come at a better time for Manchester United.
It's so bad.
We've been on the pod talking about the amount of games that we've played since December, since coming back from the World Cup. We've played every 3.5 days since then, with no breaks in there. And we've seen a lot of guys, specifically you think of your Brunos, Rashfords, Casemiro's, when he's not suspended, have played every minute of all of those games, needing that break. We had a lot of guys that potentially could have gotten called up to the national team that didn't. They got rest. Rashford got some time away. So we're looking at about 2 weeks off between our last game and this upcoming game. So that was hugely needed. Eriksen might be back healthy. You never know, but that's great. And it moves me to my second point, which is I am not confident in this game at all. I think it's a number 3 against a number 5 in the table. Casemiro is suspended. He's starting the first of his 4-game suspension, which we all know how much he holds.
He posted.
Was it a second?
Because it wasn't the FA Cup game.
That's true.
So
he made bail
left.
Out of prison FC.
Yeah, he's out of the prison. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. So second of 4-game suspension, and having Scott McTominay run around like a chicken with his head cut off is just not what we need.
Hey,
Sabitzer's
2 goals in 3 minutes for Scotland.
I was gonna say.
He sure did. Hey, there's something about Manchester United where you can play terribly for Manchester United and you go play super well for your country. Don't know what it is. Shout out Harry Maguire one time. But I'm not confident in this one at all, Dubs. I don't know if you feel any other way, but I don't feel great about it.
I've said this so many times this year. It's like I'm trusting Ten Hag. We've had sort of a lot go right in this international break. Rashford, and there's been a little bit of a controversy around it about him staying back, getting fully healthy because he's played so many minutes and skipping playing for England. Him coming back fully healthy is what we need. Bruno coming back fully healthy. Even Luke Shaw picking up that red card in the first game, like him getting more like a week and a half off. So all these guys coming back into a big stretch of the season to where we need every single person as healthy as we can be. Erickson getting 2 more weeks, finally starting to train. So we're getting healthy at the right time. But at the same time, I think you made a great point in terms of Casemiro being out. Like we know how important he is just to how we play. So it's going to be, I'm not really sure what Ten Hag is going to do at the midfield. I think we have to play Fred. Sabitzer came off with, an injury. So who knows, sort of, I'm assuming it's he's pulling a Rashford a little bit. He wasn't needed in the second game anyway. So if we can win the midfield, I'm confident we can win the game because our front three is finally healthy. Our back four will be fully healthy. It's just, if we can win the midfield, we say it so many times in this podcast, like you win the midfield, you win the game. And Casemiro's been that rock for us for this entire season, and him being out, like it's so apparent. And if it's Scott, it's Scott. And we just need him to have one of the every 6 games that he's actually halfway decent. We'll be fine.
I hope so. And, we have our version of Reece James, Anthony Martial, which is also never
he's
healthy,
back in
but
a few
whenever
days.
back in a few days, but he's been
Don't
training for the
disrespect Reece
last
James that way.
I mean, the comparison that you gave, never healthy, but whenever he's on the field, he changes the game. Martial. I would back Martial if he was healthy. 10 out of 10 games, I'd back him every time. But apparently he's been training for the last couple of weeks, but you never know if that means he'll play the game or not. We just have no idea. So Sabitzer put in a great performance for Austria before he
Great
got
free
pulled off.
kick,
I think
too.
he had an unreal free kick. But he's another one who's a little bit interesting, and I won't go into too much depth of it. We can save it for another time. But, I feel like Sabitzer's kind of getting a Donny van de Beek reputation where all of the fans think that Sabitzer's class, just like we think that Donny van de Beek is class, but like he doesn't play enough for United for us to really see his potential. Plays great for Austria, plays, great for Leipzig when he was there, but like he's been injured just as much as he's featured this season. So it's a real big toss up. But finally coming around to the Tottenham Hotspurs against Everton, a newly managerless Tottenham Hotspurs. There's a lot of shambles going on outside of the normal shambles that exist from being a Tottenham fan. And Hoove, we're going to hunker in here for a little bit. But before we get our licks in, I want to give you the opportunity to set the stage, fill everyone in of what's going on, and give your thoughts on it.
So Antonio Conte and Tottenham Hotspur mutually agreed to end their relationship this yesterday, Saturday the 20th. I don't know what day it is, but so this is the second manager. They released Jose Mourinho in April of the year prior. Antonio Conte righted the ship at the very end of it and got 4th place. We're looking at a very similar situation. I was talking to somebody, and when I got the notification that Mauricio Pochettino had been sacked in 2020 after their poor stretch of games, and Jose Mourinho was hired immediately after, I was like, I had a profound sadness. Like, that was the manager that took us to a Champions League final. He loved the club so much. The players loved him so much. He had a poor stretch of games. Not a ton you can do about it. He got sacked. I was depressed. I was so upset. Jose Mourinho is like the villain of all villains in football, plays terrorist football, but wins things. So you're like, you just go from attacking football front end to Jose ball. So that was weird. When I got the notification that Antonio Conte was sacked, I had zero emotion. Like, I read the statement. I was like, I'm sure he did. That's just where the club is at. He was upset. He went on that rant, last week and called out a lot of things, called out a lot of correct things, defended himself a lot. You have to really read into the media on that to try and figure out where he was going. But that was his kiss of death. Daniel Levy wasn't going to let that happen. So they've let them go, let Antonio go. Christian Stellini is staying on and taking operations from here, which is weird. First off, I think that's weird. In no scenario prior had they let a manager go and the entire managerial staff other than the head coach stayed. This was Ryan Mason's bid the whole time. That was just who it was going to be. So Stellini stayed. So my thoughts on that are you have the exact same playing style. Nothing is really changing. If kind of Conte had maybe actually lost the dressing room, like I've read a little bit that he had, then Stellini's your guy. Like there's got to be a positive response around him. No one's playing for his job. They're playing for, fourth place. They have a valuable position in the table for your head coach to have just been dropped, which is insane. But where do you go? Like this is the circus and circle and vicious cycle that is being Tottenham Hotspur, and it comes down to one guy, and there's not anything that you can do to change that. Like if Daniel Levy needs to say in the footballing aspect of Tottenham are not destined for glory. That's kind of to me just what it is. And there's credit where credit needs to be paid, and it's Daniel Levy as a businessman. We've been over this. Like great businessman. There's a difference between Everton and Tottenham now today, because Daniel Levy pulled mid-table Tottenham to being a relevant Big Six, club. But you sack a world-class manager after world-class manager at once a year, there's an issue internally. There's an issue higher up. So where do you go? You've got the rest of the season. There's an extensive injury list. Emerson Royale just pulled up, is going to need meniscus surgery. He's out 6 weeks. Ben Davies is out 4 to 6 weeks.
I did not know that, bro.
Oh my.
That's brutal.
Let Matt Doherty go on a free at the transfer window, loaned out. Jed Spence. So your only healthy wingbacks are Pedro Porro and even Perisic, because Sessegnon's also hurt, should be returning maybe soon.
Jeez, man.
So it forces you into this back five with Lenglet and Dyer and Romero, and that's it. Like there's no other rotation there. So it's this is calling for a Newcastle, a quick slide at the end of the season into fourth place on to the 2 draws that they are gonna inevitably get because they have 2 games in hand on Spurs.
Yep.
That's what it's just screaming to me, and that's going to be a huge disappointment. But at the end of the day, most days at Tottenham Hotspur are a disappointment. So, what do you do next year? Who do you get?
I mean, the thing is that's weird is like off pod, we were talking about like who comes in, and Julian Nagelsmann from Bayern Munich is like the other coach who is without job in the last week. But I want to bring you back to the Nuno Santos days, where Nuno was like, I think the 6th or 7th choice for that role, but they couldn't recruit any of the top managers that they wanted to fulfill the position because no one believed in the long-term project of Tottenham Hotspur. And I think it's largely disappointing, and just like the empathy side of me, knowing what it's like to have, owners that are fucking up the like long-term plan of a club with the Glazers. It makes it an impossible task. But I think, with what you just mentioned of like those injuries, which I was unaware of, but I think anytime that you're trying to secure a top 4 spot at the last couple of games of the season, but especially with that injury list, you're asking the Stellini to work a miracle. And then when he doesn't, inevitably, because it's a miracle, the fans are disappointed for an entire season. The fans are wanting change of ownership for an entire season. Like, it's just so surprising to me that you can't just like say, hey, for the next, 8 games, give it your all. We'll give you a fat ass bonus like at the end of the season to get us top 4, and then you're gone. Like,
yeah, and the Nagelsmann thing makes too much sense for it to even work at Tottenham Hotspur.
Mhm.
Like you've got a young coach, 36 years old, who has a vision and identity into how he plays and how he runs a club. he is requesting a couple pretty acceptable conditions in his next club, which is like a close relationship with the board, and he wants to see the hire being in the club, not just it's not about him receiving a paycheck. He wants to see the future of him and the future of his project that he comes in to build, and that immediately crosses him off Tottenham Hotspur's list. If we're gonna act at all like they have in the last 10 to 12 years, that's
Yeah.
not the type of guy you go and get. What I've read is that they have made contact with his representatives. He's obviously waiting to the end of the season because he basically just got broken up with over text by probably needs a couple weeks to recollect himself. So that's cool. That's cool. We shot him a text and he was receptive. He didn't turn us down immediately. So we go from there. But it's the cycle, man. Don't chew him up and spit him out.
I got 2 points on Tottenham. One serious one, and I guess one not serious one, but you can take it seriously. First point,
Love those.
I have never understood why anybody in their right mind would fire a coach midseason unless you have an immediate replacement. You look literally who we're talking about, Nagelsmann. You look at Bayern Munich, they fired him within 4 hours. They had Tuchel. Tuchel hired. And to me, that's a club that it means business and is run correctly. And I think that's the issue you have is we've mentioned it, that it's tough to recruit top management to come to Tottenham because you have to believe in the project. Like you have to believe that you'll get the support, so on and so forth. The second point is serious but not serious is that Tottenham is the Flint Tropics. Tottenham is the Flint Tropics, and Harry Kane.
Corn dogs, Jackie.
And
Corn dogs.
Harry Kane is Jackie Moon. I can't tell you how many times that Hoover was we just got to get 4th place. We just got to finish 4th place. And you guys know the Flint Tropics. They finished 4th place and went nuts and celebrated. I just feel I feel we've got Hoove over here. It's 4th place and we got it, baby. That's our trophy. We can do it.
A good
we got that trophy.
It's a good there's nothing there. You hope for the best, and that is quite literally the best. It's doomsday. I mentioned this last week. Harry Kane's leaving. Conte's gone. There's no one coming in that's gonna.
That was gonna be my
next.
That was gonna be my take. Is as you guys are about to look and start shopping for a coach, your most desirable attribute is probably going to leave.
I don't think he's leaving.
I don't know where he goes. If we dive deep into the actual speculation of where he would end up, the only realistic scenario is United, and that's only if they get bought out by Qatar. So
I think only if they get bought out by Qatar, but we're failing to mention Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy's gonna want 120 to 150 million.
English
we're not gonna do that for we're not gonna do that for a 30-year-old.
No.
He's
most clubs shouldn't.
We're all fans of Harry Kane except for Nick in this chat. We're all fans of him. But we're all fans, but a striker on the other side of 30 he's still great towards the decline of his career, spending that much money for just the next 3 seasons.
I'd take him in a heartbeat.
But for 150.
If we don't get Osimhen.
But that's the thing.
He can't go for 100. If Osimhen's 100, Harry Kane can't go for 150 realistically, but I do think he does set the price to an achievable number only by 1 to 2 clubs in the world.
It'll be September when he comes.
My only hope for Harry Kane is that I think Harry Kane has earned it to where, if he comes out and says and has a conversation with Levy that he wants to leave and wants to go try to win something in his career, that they don't make it against him somehow. And come out and be
100%.
Kane asked to leave the club. It's no, I think he's done enough for the club. I don't want to speak for who, but I think he's done enough for that club to earn, whether it be United or go to Bayern or just somewhere that he can win something. I think he's portrayed in a way that because he should be a legend from Tottenham forever. And if he wants to leave, I think he's earned that right.
Yeah, the United switch.
Bayern would be definitely easier than
Bayern's do it, man.
In the
go and do it. It's you 100% hit it on the head. It's of course if he wants to leave, then leave, bro. He's done so much for the club already, and for what? Just they gave him an opportunity when Arsenal didn't when he was a 4th grader. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That's all the club did. He was the one who got himself into greatness, and he doesn't have a ton to show for it other than a shit ton of personal records, which is sweet. But, you know, well, if you want
an Audi Cup, he's got an Audi Cup.
Hey, man, count it or something. Davidson Sanchez raised that same cup. So, you know. The game itself is you expect Tottenham to look the same, and you know what you expect from a Sean Dyche 4-4-2. So
New manager,
is Cellini the new manager? I hope there's a bounce. I realistically, this team shouldn't finish less than fourth. Like there's without the injuries, this team is still the team is still there. And I think truly, if anything, not Conte having Conte not there is the same thing that I mentioned weeks prior. It's like there is definitely got to be some relief within the dressing room that they're not walking into a war zone every day with Antonio Conte as their head coach, which is fine. And they're all pussies for not being able to deal with that. There's a whole lot of blame that needs to be thrown on the players for this. But if you look at it objectively and with 8 matches left of the season, just win the games. Just win the games the way that you've been winning the games and hope that Stellini subs a player in before the 75th minute. That's all. That's it. That's, you know, there's a blueprint. You can do it. It's not hard. But it's Tottenham Hotspur, lads. So,
lads, it's Tottenham. So we'll see how the weekend fares, how the rest of the season fares. But we're going to go into our weekly flowers and showers, a little bit different of this episode where we don't have a weekly recap to go over, but weekly flowers and showers. I want to start off with the weekly flowers. We're going to shout out the man, the Missouri State legend, not Andy Hoover, but Kyle Hebert from the St. Louis City SC MLS team. Kyle Hebert not only has played an exceptional role in the first couple of games for St. Louis City, but he also received his first national team call up for Canada. They did a little player bio on him that we sent around Twitter and in this group where we got to hear about his upbringing, his plans for college and going pro, and then him getting sidelined by a couple knee injuries, battling back, not having the college career that he wanted, and then not getting picked up in the super draft, and then getting signed by the St. Louis City 2 team, earning his call, being the first signing from the City 2 team to the top team, and he's proved to be worth his weight in gold. He's had a great season, and so shout out to the man, Kyle Hebert, for his first senior call-up for Canada. Congratulations there. And unfortunately, Hoove, we're sticking in the showers with Tottenham, but specifically Daniel Levy. We can look at Tottenham. We can look at the, lack of trophies. We can look at a lot of different dimensions, but the continued problem with Tottenham all stems from Daniel Levy, as you just mentioned. He has developed the reputation in the transfer market of just being absolutely unbearable to deal with. I can't imagine that he's any different behind closed doors with coaches or with the rest of the staff. He's now shown 4 or 5 different managers out the front door. Just seems to not really have any brain behind how to run a soccer organization. And again, I empathize with you from the Glazers' perspective. I get it, but it's just showing in a lot of ways, and it just has to be extremely difficult to be a fan of that club, knowing that he's at the helm of it. So he gets the showers this week. He could potentially get the showers every week, but he's this week's showers. So
if you have 3 girls tell you that your breath stinks, you don't call the girls out for being picky. You go to a dentist. You get the problem fixed.
It is interesting when you go into that voice, you do get a little Irish on us. I don't know why, but it's like your high-pitched voice just turns Irish. But moving on to brighter topics, gentlemen. St. Louis City SC is now 5-0. Not only have we set the record for an expansion team, we are on our way to setting the best. We have a couple more games to do this, but the best start to an MLS season ever. And I think it's time that we remove all talk of us getting lucky and to giving us some flowers ourselves. So, gents, we came off of a 4-0 win over Real Salt Lake away. How was the game for you all? And what are your thoughts?
The only people still labeling us lucky are Seattle and LAFC fans on Twitter. Like you don't do this. You don't go away from home and win 4-0. In my opinion, in many professional sporting leagues, in the top leagues, going away and winning anywhere is tough. Um, they hunkered down in the first half. I've been nervous about Berkey. I know you've been nervous about Berkey, Hen. We've all been a little
Yes.
nervous about Berkey. I think this was the game we've seen for sure where he can be his best. I think he's eased off of his high line, high horse that finds him in the wrong position sometimes. He's definitely picked up the pace of the game more, in my opinion, for sure. And he had some spectacular saves. That's cool to see. Like the guy that you wanted to be the guy is the guy. It's good to see him come into his own. I hijacked that one. What did you guys see? It was Joe Klaus is the man.
João Klaus is the man, and obviously I completely agree with what you were saying, Hoove. I think it was the first time Berkey was tested and he delivered. Another shutout for him. And it shows why he's our captain and why we spent so much money to bring him over. So I was very happy about it. And once again, I think you said it perfectly. Like everyone's been talking about him being the man, and he kind of showed it last game. Also, you were hitting on it at the end. João Klaus, like team of the week, shout for the MLS team of the week for him. Man can finish the ball and score some goals. He's also such a dominant presence offensively and defensively. I just imagine myself being a defender, like having João Klaus running at me when I have the ball at my feet is probably not fun at all. So yeah, I definitely was very happy with our performance again. I think the luck that's all BS and they can stop talking about it now.
I mean, we did get the pass back again. Not saying that was the deciding factor.
Oh, hey, sorry, 3-0.
But I'm just saying, like it's hard to win five games in a row in any sport, no matter what you're playing. Like winning 5 games in a row, like in the Prem, is a massive deal. Winning 5 games in a row in anything you're doing is huge. So with that goal, like obviously we saw like that Berkey save essentially kept us into the game. Second half, we scored 3 minutes in the second half, and essentially from that moment on, the game was over. So I think the people that are sitting there sort of talking about how it is a fluke, like there's just when you look, I was looking this at today, reading it. MLS posted an article. It was talking about how City joined, like it was like the 96 Galaxy and like the 2012 Sporting Kansas City is the only clubs to start with 15 points in the first 5 matches. And then also like we have the best ever goal differential at, plus 11 to start the season. And 15 goals is also tied for the most ever in the first 5 games of a season. So like, I don't know what more you want to see from a club in like the first 5 games of a season in order for like not be considered lucky anymore.
Yeah, they're doing great.
I'm excited. The defensive battle moving forward of who's going to play, I think is like Hebert and Parker. Like Bartlett has kept 2 shutouts back. Bartlett has kept 2 shutouts back to back. Like we still don't have our Swedish dog yet, so we'll see.
Well, I think that's what's interesting. Like, I mean, yeah, our Swedish guy is sidelined at least for another month.
Yeah.
But when he comes back, who knows if he's going to have that, lockdown spot that we thought he was going to have as like a designated player. But I'll call it out. I was super nervous about Bartlett in the first half. He made a couple tackles, including one that very well could have been a pen if the ref was just feeling a slightly different way. He made a couple of what I'll call defensive mistakes that looked extremely shaky. I don't mind him being our backup, but whenever we have Hebert and Parker in there together, I think that they just provide a little bit more defensive stability. But a shout out to our wingbacks. Both of them have started all 5 games. They have really come into their stride. I think in the last two games or so. Forgive me, our right back. I don't remember what his name right now. Nerwinski played out of his mind this last game, forwards and backwards. He played extremely well. And we know how Hoove loves a right back. So eyes were going to be on him regardless of what happens. I do want to call out kind of something that's interesting in our away games. I don't know if this is true. because we've only played a couple of them, but it seems that we have a different group of guys traveling to every single game. Miggy Perez wasn't at this game. Obviously Hebert's away at international duty. Blom wasn't at the last game.
That's where Miggy was too. Miggy was with like the U19s.
Gotcha. But I just find it to be interesting that like we even like outside of just, having the 11 starters, having the group of 18, I don't think that we've solidified at all, which is fine if we keep going on and winning. But we're playing well. I think we hunkered in, like you said, in that first half. But I do love that when we scored one, we scored three more after that. I think a lot of teams take their foot off the gas, but we just didn't on this one. So, yeah.
Gioacchini was one of the guys that we were all excited to watch. And I saw someone on Twitter. He's forced his way into the starting 11,
100%.
which is cool to see. And I think he does a lot of dirty work. I think that we mentioned prior in talking about Roberto Firmino, and if you maybe lose some of that ability to high press quickly and make those thankless runs that he's kind of been running really well for. He and Klaus have combined so well that he's locked himself, which is great for the kid. He didn't even get a lick of a chance at Orlando, and he has 2 goals in 5 games, and I think that's it totals his senior career total. So that's really, really cool. And I'm glad he's getting the run that, we maybe thought he was overhyped, but he's shown that he fits into the system. It's so system dependent here and there, and especially as a young player, he found something that works for him. He combines well with a very talented midfield and Brazilian up top. I think shouts to the kid. I think his story is really cool, and I'm pumped to have him.
I think I just completely mislabeled him, to be honest with you. I think I had one image of like what he was going to be on the field, just of like what I thought I knew about him, and he is just a completely different player than that. You just called out, he is willing to kind of do that dirty work with. Mm-hmm. But like preseason, I thought that he was going to be like our flair guy, the guy mm-hmm. that was trying to take people on. And don't get me wrong, like when he gets confident, he does try a couple things here and there, but like it's not like he's like a Neymar kind of like showboat style of player. And that was kind of the image that I had of him. So I'm glad that like I feel like I'm eating my own words with it instead of being like, no, he's exactly what we thought and he's just not good at it, which is why these other teams have been passing on him. So I'm really impressed with his output over the last couple of games specifically.
Yeah, I think that goes to what we've kind of talked about a lot of our like team identity. And I think that goes back to how well our coaching staff and our athletic director did when selecting players. Like I had that same exact feeling, Henry, with a decent amount of the players. I was like, oh, I'm interested. Like Perez, I was like, 17 years old. He probably has an ego. Is he really going to do the dirty work? Like every single time, every single player has been doing that. They've been putting that extra mile in. You can tell they're fighting for each other. Like I just think that culture is so ingrained already, and I absolutely love it.
It's helpful when you see your superstars doing that. Klaus sets that tone from the front. He's always
main job almost.
Yeah, he's always willing to do it. And I think even, if I'm being critical, I think Lowen kind of dips in and out of games. Like sometimes he's absolute class. I think all of his dead balls are nuts. He can put the ball anywhere he wants. Mm-hmm. But the amount of times that he's gotten caught out in the last 5 games for simply not checking his shoulders as a center midfielder is a little alarming. But he gets right back to win the ball. He goes into tackles. He's not afraid of it. Vasilev, Indiana is going into tackles. He's playing central midfield when he's a true winger. It's impressive to see. So we have Minnesota United at the weekend, who have 2 wins and 2 draws on the year. They're unbeaten as of now. But interestingly enough, they don't score a lot of goals, nor do they concede a lot of goals. Right now, their goal differential is 2. There's only 1 game that they've played so far that there's been more than 2 goals scored in the game. So it's a little bit interesting, but I imagine that we'll come away with the result as well this weekend.
This is where we find out if we're a fortress or not, baby.
Yeah.
This is the one.
I think also, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, along with the game this weekend And another thing is I was watching a decent amount of the MLS games. Obviously, we're all now into MLS, and I think
We're
Henry,
recruiting, man.
yeah, I think you said it last week. The one game that I watched like was Galaxy versus Timbers, and it was a 0-0 draw. And the entire game, I literally was like, we would spank both of these teams.
Yeah.
Like we would beat. I mean, obviously we know what happened with Portland already. Like we had a great result against them, but like just watching that game and how boring it was, and watching the rest of the games in the weekend, like we are a force already. And I think you guys said it right, a fortress at City like Park. Like I think, oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
I think it's just a miserable place to play, man. It's got to be.
I think the last point I'll make is just sort of like figuring out the MLS a little bit, and like not having my expectations to when I turn on an MLS game at the same as to when I turn on a Prem game.
Yeah,
Like
true.
having watched like different MLS games like throughout the weekend, like it's just not realistic to expect all of these teams to be able to keep the ball like you see the Prem teams do. But like I will say there are still those moments of brilliance where you see like some great build-up play. Or even look at like Alm's goal, the fourth goal we scored. Like that was great build-up, great intricate play, low with a beautiful pass. Like you look at Almada's free kick last week, and I think that's just what the ML is. We just have to take it as that. Like it's not gonna be pretty all the time, but like we do have the dogs that when it comes to it can make something special happen. I think that's just the MLS as a league.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome as well. My brother brought it up, who's like my older brother. He's never watched soccer really in his entire life, doesn't watch the Prem at all, but he loves these games. And he brought it up that he likes the sloppiness. He's like, it reminds him of like hockey and like the grind, the grit, the hard tackles, and all that stuff. So he is fully intrigued into it. So I thought that was kind of interesting aspect of like some fans like almost enjoy that style of football or that style of soccer.
I do feel like in MLS, I feel like if you can implement your style and do it well, like I feel like that's what it takes. Like, and if you can have it drilled into where your guys know their job, like I feel like that's half the battle in the MLS, and we've seen that.
I think that's why we're working so well.
Yeah, we haven't looked perfect, but at the same time, like we stick to our identity. Berkey makes a few saves, all of a sudden it's 4-0 and we're rolling 5-0, you know. And I think that's the key to MLS is you look at the teams that aren't playing so well, or even we've played against, it's like they don't have an identity yet. You still watch a week in and week out, they don't have an identity, and here we are rolling because we do have one.
I mean, Sporting KC's had this. What's the coach's name? Peter
Varner or something.
Vermees. They are supposedly supposed to have some sort of identity and play style, and they are at the bottom of the table. So
they're bad.
Any opportunity you give them a shout out, I will take. Those guys suck. Small club.
Small club mentality.
And the banter begins.
You mentioned the fortress as well. Cycling through all the games this last weekend, there's so many stadiums with empty seats. I mean, it's alarming. Salt Lake was cold as shit when we played there over the weekend, so whatever. But I mean, the amount of empty seats that were everywhere all across that stadium, and even Kansas City when they were on TV, yes, they're bottom of the table, but their stadium isn't very big. I don't know if you all have visited, but I gotten the chance to go to a game there. It's not a big stadium. They had hardly anyone in the stands. So I hope that we continue that fortress mentality. I know that we'll be doing our job in yelling at the players and doing all of that, but truthfully, I expect nothing less than a win on this game. And with that brings us to our Factor Cap, our weekly session of the Factor Cap. Butchie Man is not with us, so Connor Sindobri is going to give us our Factor Cap. Over to you, Dobes.
So I switched it during the middle of it. I had one and an idea, but we talked a lot of Tottenham today. None of you guys watched
those guys.
if none of you guys watch TikTok, I sent you. I saw this, and it was a lot of interesting debates and comments going around. I saw it on Twitter and kind of Instagram. So Factor Cap, Wrexham will win a Premier League title before Tottenham Hotspur. Factor Cap.
I saw this and I thought it was so funny.
Hilarious. Wrexham, for what it's worth, for those of you that don't know, is the club owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Currently, they are 4 divisions lower than the Premier League. So
everyone's thought is that they'd win the next 4 years, be in the Prem, and still have the opportunity to win a title before Tottenham.
And win.
Think about it. So this is like saying, like right now, do you guys think this isn't even trolling, like within the next 4 years, do you think like give it like even 6 years that like the Spurs win a title? Or in that time, will we see Wrexham make a rise with the backing that they have, make it to the Premier League?
Hey, Ryan Reynolds just cashed out on a
Hey,
lot of
that's what
money
I'm
this
saying.
season,
And
brother.
within the next decade, win a Premier League title. Like, now you guys go. You guys do your answers, but that's just a little context.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna go fact.
Oh my.
And I'm gonna give some rationale. I don't believe that Spurs are going to win not only in the next 4 years, but I don't think that they're ever going to win a title under Daniel Levy. I just don't think so. For all the reasons that we mentioned earlier, I don't think that it's going to happen. That could be 4 years, that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years, that could be 20 years. It depends on how long he stays in control of that club. Now, if Daniel Levy were to sell the club in the next couple of years, I would immediately go to a cap on this. But as it stands right now, with Daniel Levy still being relatively young in the business world, still having a lot of progressive ideas in the business world, I think he's going to stay in power at that club for as long as he can. And so I would even extend the runway from 4 years all the way out to 20 years. And I think in the next 20, Wrexham can get it done.
Well, why are you doing that to Hoove, though? You didn't have to go
I
that
know,
hard.
bro.
I have to
but I
go
believe it.
I have to go the opposite way and say cap, just because I do agree with you, Henry, in the fact that I don't think Tottenham will win under Levy. I just don't think that Levy will be at Tottenham in the time that Wrexham will gain enough backing and win a Premier League or win any title in the Premier League. That's just my opinion. And I think Tottenham would have a chance of winning it quicker than they would.
It's a good argument. It is.
Yes.
It is a good argument. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go cap. I think it takes 8+ years for Wrexham to get to the Premier League. I think we're selling the leagues below short if we think that they're going to get it done in 4 straight promotions or 5 years or however many it might take. And I think the first, you saw it in the first year, they still didn't win the National League or whatever that they had to get, halfway through the season with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney splashing some big cash to bring in guys above their league level. So I think there's a world where they become that in 10 to 15 years for sure. I also don't think the Spurs fans will allow 10 more years of Daniel Levy. That I think is the first domino to fall. I think it would be Spurs' fault if they didn't. To where if Daniel Levy is, I'm not going to argue that if Daniel Levy's still in charge and we're doing things the way that we've still been doing, and it's a 12-year, 10-year, 15-year cycle, for sure, Wrexham could win it. But I have a hard time seeing the Spurs fans, even with their anger now, getting that far down the road to where he's still here. So I'm going cap. I don't think it happens. I think the argument of saying that St. Louis City could win a trophy before Tottenham has all of a sudden become extremely way more real than anything else.
Biggest fact ever.
There's real steam behind that one, but Wrexham is a far stretch for me.
I'm going 1000% fact. Whether it be for the bands, whether it just be because I think it's possible. I'm going 100% fact. And I truthfully think it's because, one, Tottenham's allergic to winning. And two, like, the money that I think will be backed by Wrexham continuously. And I think this is where we see all of sort of football going, is like the Qataris and these people are going to come continue. And that's just where football's going, whether it's a completely different conversation or whether that's where we want it to go or not. But that's just where it's going to go. And in order to compete, you have to have a lot of money. And I think whether it be the deals with Amazon, all the different deals that they have already where they have their shows coming out, the Netflix documentary, all the different stuff that's surrounding Wrexham. I think within 10, 15 years, it's like they'll be in the Prem, no doubt. And I don't see Tottenham with the teams that they have had, and they haven't come close. Like I don't see how they get any better. Like they don't like who's the coach they're going to get next. Like
I would like to throw a stat of Spurs would have won the league had Leicester not had the season that they had. It would have won them the league like 8 of the previous 12 years, and Leicester just went 100%.
That's just some team.
You sound like Winks defending Arsenal right now.
That's just some team's personality, though. Like
you're telling me that a National League team is going to win the Premier League before my Premier League team, who's in 4th. What there's no answer here.
Here's the thing. Like,
yes, I am. I absolutely am.
So since the Premier League era has begun, there's only been 7 teams that have won the Prem. 7 in 30 years. United, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Blackburn, Leicester, and Liverpool. So that, like, literally in my head, as I was listening to you all talk, I was like, could it be possible that neither of them ever do it? Ever. In our lifetime, certainly. But, like, Tottenham has had, however many years to do it. They haven't done it. I don't know what their history is of relegation and getting back promoted to the Prem. I have no idea. But even if Wrexham make it up to the Prem, they could be in the Prem for the next 150 years and never win it. Like, that's crazy to think about.
And you said that.
But they will.
Yeah, but they will at the expense of Tottenham. And with that being said, gentlemen, that's a great place to wrap it up. As always, follow us on all of our socials. We're getting active again. You might see a return of Mecca in the streets this weekend for the upcoming game. Follow us on the Twitter, the TikTok, the Instagram. Keep your eyes on our the weekly episode drop on Tuesdays. Go Team USA. And thanks for being here, gentlemen. Good work tonight. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, lads.